Now, to all of my South African friends watching, I've got a couple of questions for you. What is Rassie going to do at number 10? Is it going to be Mane Lebok, or are we going to see Sasha back again, or even Andre Pollard? I'd like to know your views on that one. And what's Rassie going to do in the midfield for South Africa? Because we've seen these great performances now from Canan Moodie, and surely he has to be in the conversation somewhere. Or are we going to see the old Reliant pairing of Damian Deolandi and Jesse Krill? Love to hear your views in this video. G'day everyone, welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark. If you haven't been here before, my name's Mark. I'm a retired Kiwi bloke living in beautiful Cancun in Mexico, and I'm a huge rugby fan. Lots of rugby going on this weekend, but in this video I'm going to talk about the South Africa versus Georgia game that just finished seconds ago. Give you my views on both sides and also talk about some of the players. So let's get into it right now. Well, I was really interested to watch this game because last time they played it was 40 points to 9 in favour of the Springboks. So I wanted to see first of all how much the Springboks have improved since then, and I wanted to see how much Georgia have improved since then as well. So that was one thing I was keeping an eye on. And well, Georgia got off to the perfect start, really, didn't they? They put a lot of pressure on up front. They had some good pick and goes from their forwards, and Kakadatsi got over and scored the opening try in the 3rd minute of the game. So that really put Georgia on the front foot. But the big question in this game was always going to be was how long Georgia were going to be able to compete against this mighty Springboks team who have got power and weapons both in the forwards and in the back line. And there were some in particular performances that I was looking forward to watching today, and one of them was Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu starting in the number 10 jersey for the Springboks today. Have been watching Mane Lebok lately, and I thought Mane's been playing really good rugby, kicking very well. So I was looking to see whether Sasha could actually match that or improve on it. Another thing that I was looking closely as this game got underway was the midfield for the Springboks. In particular, Canan Moodie. I'm a big fan of Canan Moodie, thought he played well last week, had another opportunity today, and also whether his combination with Damian Deolandi would be obvious in this game. Springboks only took about 9 minutes to really get into the game, and when Boan Venter went over for their first try, it was going to be an uphill task for the Georgians, and by the time we got to half time, the Springboks had put on 4 tries against the Georgians and had really started to dominate, particularly up front, and I was very impressed with the front row that was playing for the Springboks, all debutants today, of course. So out of those 4 tries that the Boks scored in the first half, the debutant Van der Verve got 2 of those tries within 32 minutes of the game starting. So who would have thought, being a debutant in the front row, that you'd end up scoring 2 tries on debut for the Springboks? Well, Van der Verve did that and was playing exceptionally well, but he was aided right across the field, I thought. So Sia Kalesi was back in the game and he started off really well. Unfortunately, he got an HIA, had to go off, but he did come back on. And Quagga Smith was on and off the field as a result of that. And of course, when Quagga came on, nothing was lost for the Springboks. But what really struck me in that first half for the Springboks were 2 things, really. The ability of Grant Williams to make a difference again in this game. I've been talking up his stocks a lot lately, and all for very good reason. He's absolutely brilliant around the base of the scrum, the lineouts, and in the open play, and we just saw so many examples of that in that first half from Grant Williams. And every time he touched the ball, I don't think the Georgians knew what was going on. One of the things that wouldn't have pleased Rassie in that first half was Sasha Ngomazulu's kicking ability from the tee. He didn't get any of the conversions over in the first half and left a lot of points on the table for the South Africans, and that would be something they can't afford to do against the top teams in world rugby. Kicking percentages this year in particular are going to be extremely important. So I think Mane Lebok is kicking better than what we're seeing from Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu at the moment. So in addition to Van der Verve getting 2 tries in that first half, the other front rower Boan Venter got 1 as well, and we saw another try from Canan Moodie, a fantastic try set up by Grant Williams. That particular try to Moodie, and Moodie was showing a lot of pace, a lot of ability to get through the gap today. And as I've said in the past in Springbok videos that I've made, the more time that Canan Moodie gets in the Springbok jersey, the better player he's going to be. Now I'm starting to really question myself in terms of where he fits in this team, because it seems to be that Damian Deolandi and Jesse Krill have got ownership of that midfield, but I don't know how Rassie can leave Canan Moodie out of the equation at the moment, with the way that he's playing. Obviously, he brings something very different to what Jesse Creel does and what Damien Deolandi does. So it's all going to depend on what type of game the Springboks want to play. Let me know what you think about Canan Moody's position in this team and whether or not he's putting any threat on Jesse Creel at all in terms of starting against the top teams for South Africa this season. Another area of play that I love watching South Africa do at the moment is their ability under the high ball. We saw in that first half, Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu put up a couple of high balls. We saw Van der Verwe get under them, we saw Arendse get under them, and we saw Fassi involved as well. And it was a really, really good competition from the Springboks when the ball went up, and they're putting a lot of pressure on their opposition, winning the ball back on a lot of occasions, giving themselves good territory advantages as well, and it helps to really put them on the front foot. So any team that's playing the Springboks this year will need to be able to compete for that high ball in all. So we got to half time, and as I said, it was 22-10 on the scoreboard. And just looking at some of the players that stood out for me for South Africa, I thought the front row did very well to acclimatise themselves to Test rugby going out there for the first time. And let's face it, this Georgia pack is no mugs. They're very, very good, and they put a lot of pressure on to compete against the Springboks team. But as that first half went on, I thought that the South Africans in particular got the better of them, but they were also showing up in open play, and I think that's something that would have pleased Rassie as well. Norkia was doing really well at the lineouts. He's outstanding at the moment, and you can see with the lineout calls they're preferring to go to him, and he's winning some really good, incredible high percentages of balls from the lineout. Peter Steph-Toy had a great first half as well, always dangerous, always one of the best players on the field, but he was ably supported, I thought, by Sia Kolesi in the first half, who was doing some really good things off the ball. I saw him doing some really good clean outs, and he was also protecting Grant Williams a lot, and that was giving Williams the ability to shine and do what he does. The ability of a good player is really to help another player look good, and I thought that's what Kolesi was doing in that first half to protect Grant Williams and open up opportunities for him. So across the field, I thought it was a really good performance from South Africa in the first half. It was also a good performance from Georgia. I enjoyed the first half from a rugby purist point of view. It was tough rugby. It was really in-your-face rugby. There were some big tackles going in, and Georgia weren't being walked over. South Africa had to play good rugby to beat them in that first half as much as they did, and they did play good rugby. That was the whole point of it. So I think after the early setback when Georgia got their try, South Africa got into their gear and they were a little bit more patient. But then at times we saw a couple of errors from them. This is going to happen in these games against all of these teams. When you're trying to push that extra pass or just get somebody else on the front foot, there is a tendency to overdo it. And we've seen it from all the teams across all of the weekends so far in the international season this year. For the second half, the questions to me were, was Georgia going to be able to stay with the Springboks or even come back and score first? If they had in the second half, it would have helped them on the scoreboard. And what was South Africa's second half performance going to be like in this game? Well, we only had to wait 6 minutes into the second half before we saw a brilliant try from the Springboks. Grant Williams set it up again with an enormous pass that went out to Edwill van der Verwe on the wing, and he went in for another try. A brilliant try to the Springboks, and once again Grant Williams showing his ability this time with ball in hand, getting a massive pass out and creating the opportunity for Van der Verwe to go in the corner. So the Springboks started the second half on the front foot, and they never let up on the Georgian team. And despite Georgia having some very good moments in that second half, it was pretty much one-way traffic. The more and more the second half continued, and the more that the South Africans decided that they wanted to play some open running rugby. So 4 tries in the first half to the Springboks, 5 tries in the second half to the Springboks, and no points to Georgia. And I think that would have kept Rassie pretty happy after half time. There's 2 tries to Edwill van der Verwe. We saw one from Damien Willemse, we saw one from Kurtley Arendse, and we saw Andre Pollard get one as well right at the very end of the game. So the Springboks ended up running out with this one by 53 points to 10. In the end, it was a very good performance. I like the way that the Springboks really carried it on in the second half, and as the Georgians got more and more tired because they were putting in some big tackles for most of this game, the Springboks were able to use their advantage. Now, when the bench came on for the Springboks, we saw some notable differences. Pollard came on, and I thought he started to control the game a lot better than what we saw from Sasha, particularly from the kicking point of view. I thought his kicking was more impressive. We saw Faf de Klerk come on as well. He made a really big charge at it when he came on. Unfortunately went off late in the game. I think that was with an HIA. We'll see if we can confirm that later on. But I thought Faf brought some really good energy and was doing some very good stuff, getting through some breaks, but also big in defence for Faf and doing some really good work in the clean out, which would have pleased Rassie no end, I'm sure. But the man that I love watching when he comes on is RG Schneemann, of course, and what a fantastic couple of offloads he had again today. I always talk about his long wingspan, and today we saw it in action with a couple of brilliant offloads leading to tries for the Springboks. And what a man to bring in off the bench and have that sort of impact. I thought Bonami had a very good impact when he came off the bench as well, and I don't think the South Africans lost anything in terms of their power up front. Although the Georgians did a smart thing, they brought on their best forwards towards the end of the game, and it actually made the scrums a little bit more competitive. But by that time the Springboks had already got the lead on the scoreboard, but they also had the momentum in their back line, and their backs looked like they wanted to run all day and to score as many tries as they possibly can. The Springboks team, when they're unleashed, is absolutely devastating. If you look at the number of fantastic wings they've got, you can add Edward van der Verve in there as well as another one. Then you've got Kurtley Ardense, you've got Colby, of course, that didn't play in this game, and you've also got Makazolo Mampimpi. So the Springboks have a devastating ability out wide to hurt any team. And with Fassi at fullback and Willemse coming on as well, the back three look very, very settled for the Springboks team. And you're going to have to bring your A game if you think you're going to get anywhere near beating them. So overall, I thought this was a very good display by Georgia. They look tough, they look hungry for this game. They were obviously up for it, but the class came through from the World Championship, from the World Champions in the end. They were able to score those tries and hold on to more creativity throughout the game, which I really enjoyed watching. Yes, the game got away big time from Georgia in the last 10 minutes, but I don't think they should be ashamed by that. I think some people were expecting 70 or 80 points to be scored by the Springboks team, and I think Georgia did enough in the first half to show that they really are ranked number 11 in the world and they deserve to be there, and with some good more experience against the top teams, I think they can continue to grow. They've got a very good junior program in Georgia with their under 20 and under 18 programs. So over the next coming years, I think we're going to see the highlights of Georgia rugby go to another level, which will be good for world rugby in total. But it was a dominating display by the Springboks, particularly in the second half. There were still some errors there that Rassie won't be happy with, but as I've been saying in my videos, it's almost impossible to put an 80-minute game of rugby together these days, because the opposition are going to play their part in disrupting you, and there's always going to be the intensity of the game that takes away a few of those errors, and we saw those again today in the Springboks play. But I think they'll be walking into the Rugby Championship competition this year very motivated, very positive about where they are, and again they've got to fight for selections amongst their team. I don't know what Rassie's going to do with this team as we go forward. The front row played extremely well, I thought, today. The debutants that came on and played, all of them had a very, very good game. And Etzebeth and Norkia in the locking pair were very, very good. I don't think Salman Morat has got much chance of getting back into this team, in my humble opinion. Peter Steph de Toy, of course, on the side with Sia Kalesi, and Kobus Visa, who I haven't mentioned yet, had a pretty good game until he was replaced. So now we get ready for the Rugby Championship as far as these teams go, and it will be very, very exciting. I think the Springboks, from the teams that will play in the Rugby Championship, will go into it as favourites. I think they're playing the better rugby of all the teams I've been watching so far this year, particularly their second half performances, and their depth in their team is going to make a big difference. But it's all to play for in the Rugby Championship, and now the stakes start from zero and we go from here. For Georgia, I'm looking forward to seeing their ongoing development and improvement. Let's see if they can get into the top 10 in World Rugby by the end of this year. I think if they carry on with performances like they played in the first 20 minutes or so of this game, they've got a good chance to do that. Now, to all of my South African friends watching, I've got a couple of questions for you. What is Rassie going to do at number 10? Is it going to be Mane Lebok, or are we going to see Sasha back again, or even Andre Pollard? I'd like to know your views on that one. And what's Rassie going to do in the midfield for South Africa? Because we've seen these great performances now from Kainan Moody, and surely he has to be in the conversation somewhere. Or are we going to see the old Reliant pairing of Damien Diolandi and Jesse Krill? Love to hear your views in this video. Also, let me know what you thought of the game, both first and second half. Were you happy that South Africa kicked on within the second half? But also, did Georgia surprise you a little bit in the first half in terms of their passion and intensity in the game? I thought they did very well. It takes two teams to make a good game like this one was. Now, plenty more rugby to come. Of course, I've still got to make videos about the British and Irish Lions and Australia first test match. And don't forget, we've got that World Rugby Under-20 Championship final game between the South Africans and the New Zealanders today that I'll also be reviewing and putting a video out about that. So plenty to see here on Inside Rugby with Mark. If you haven't already become a subscriber, please do so. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps me out a lot. And give this video a like and a thumbs up as well if you can. That would help me out. Okay, time for me to wrap this one up. I'll see you again very soon. Remember, keep safe, keep well, keep enjoying your rugby across the world. And time to say adios from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. Bye for now.